Fantastic. So thank you everyone for joining. So this is session 2. So we had one yesterday where we looked at, of course, the starting factors of the professional obligations such as client intake, service and communication. We looked at how you can intake a client in uLaw, how you do your conflict check, use the retainer templates that we provide you or potentially bring your own so we can help you upload it into the uLaw platform. I hear that in the chat window that someone needs to mute their line. So if you can kindly please do so, that would be great. And
Chloe,
yeah, then we looked at
you. Chloe, you seem to be on here twice.
Okay. I'm sure we can give Chloe a minute to do that. I'll continue to just have a quick recap of what we did yesterday. And we looked at some of the important components of a retainer or an engagement letter, which allows you to define the nature and scope of the matter, the responsibilities of the client themselves, the types of docketing, and the type of invoicing patterns that you plan to provide to your clients, whether it's a flat fee, with disbursement, with taxes, making sure that the retainer letter pretty much articulates the obligations and the formal relationship between the client and your legal firm. Yeah. And we looked at, of course, how uLaw by default provides you with the unique numbering for every file, allowing you to be cross-indexed and easy for you to search for information. And if I were to jump into my uLaw platform, we looked at Roger Moore, kind of being the practice or the playground legal professional that I'm using. And imagine this to be any other day. So we've done some work yesterday, and we come back, log in and back. And let's say you do have a blank slate. This is where the dashboard really helps. So if you look at our recently modified contacts or recently modified matters, you're going to be able to see the different clients and the different matters that we were working on. So if you look at our client, it was Way Lighting House, if you remember. So I'm going to click on that particular contact, and it takes me, as you can see, right into that contact's information. And if you remember, we did the client intake, so I can quickly edit this particular contact, and I'll show you the pieces of information that we had. And of course, we did create a matter for Way as well. So it was Mr. Way Lighting House, referral, correspondence address, phone number. Yeah. And if you remember, we created a matter. We also were able to generate compliance documents. In fact, you can generate envelopes for this client. Source of contact report, which tells you where you're getting your clients from. It was as part of the different types of sources of these clients. And finally, we walked into creating a matter. Oh, just gonna quickly get out of here. All right. So we had created a simple small claims matter. Sorry about this. I'm going to just close out here. Simple small claims matter where we did a flat rate, where we had multiple dockets, but we did not bill them by the docket. We had a flat rate for the overall matter for $700. And if you click on the disbursements retainer, you're going to see the line items of the $1,000 that we received yesterday through an email transfer. There was also an application fee that was $209. And here was the final dockets. A quick summary of all of this can be found in our question mark right here, which clearly tells you that you had a $1,000 deposit coming in. Completely all the $1,000 has been withdrawn, mostly due to a eligible trust transfer. And there was an invoice for $1,000, and that was paid. Okay. We also looked at the...
you for a second, Praveen? Would you be able to show us, because I wasn't here for the whole demo yesterday, one thing that I was wondering about is when you have a flat fee, how do you docket time? You just make it non-billable?
No, so by default, you could have in your settings a default docket to either be a billable time, or if you just click this little arrow or double-click the billable time, it gives you this drop-down. And if I toggle this entire docket into a flat rate docket, I can now enter the amount instead of entering a billable time. Instead of entering hours and minutes, I can just say $300.
Do you still enter your hours and minutes, though?
No, it comes down, well, when you talk about hours and minutes, are you talking about billing the client the hours and minutes? Because it doesn't make sense, right, if it's a flat rate?
No,
or are you looking...
No, able to produce the time docket to show them that you've done work for the 1,000 you're billing them.
Yeah, so you can definitely capture the duration. For example, you can say, I spent 2 hours on this docket, but I'm charging you $300 flat fee.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. Alrighty, so that's how you do your flat rate dockets. As long as you've not invoiced it, you can always delete a docket. So you can just click on this little X and then click Save, and then it's deleted. So what we did, and that's why it says invoice pending. As soon as you have a docket, uLaw right away tells you, hey, maybe it's time to docket, to invoice. Okay. We looked at the court form, so we looked at the additional parties, and I know I changed it for landlord and tenant, but let me just change this back to the defendant party type. So we had Stephanie, who we added as a contact. If you remember, we added her as a defendant type under our contacts, and then we associated Stephanie as a tenant or as a defendant in the small claims matter, plaintiff-defendant scenario, with the client, Way Lighting House, being the plaintiff. And if you remember, we generated the small claims court, plaintiff's claim, and we do have from 1A to 9 to 20R, I believe. And we did the plaintiff's claim, and let's say you're based out of the Ottawa courthouse. If you do have a claim number, you can put that in. You can put that claim number right under here as well, under court file number. And the last thing we did was we associated this particular file with a Google Drive folder. And as and when you generated documents, you were able to drag and drop those documents right into this matter. And if you remember that. And again, it depends on what you have. If you have Google Drive, that's great. If you have OneDrive, that's great as well. We do connect with these two systems. And I had also mentioned about any third-party applications or documents coming from other systems that we may want to do. Like, for example, if you have a scanned driver's license, so I was able to kind of mimic a driver's license. So here it is. You can just drag and drop it, a driver's license, into that folder. And all of that shows up in your Documents tab, which now asks you which Google account do you want to connect with. And I'm going to choose my corporate account. And that comes from the settings. And we help you as part of our onboarding with all of that. And if I refresh, it's going to list down all of the documents that are, of course, connected with this matter at this time, including the driver's license. Okay? In fact, it's a two-way street. If I go into my Google Drive, and let's say I rename this, right? Of course, I've got the Tor driver's license. Let's say I add a description. This is totally irrelevant, but I'm just going to make this funny. And you can see we've also bought the matter. I'm sorry?
But I'm not sure what the Law Society would make of that description of your client.
I know. All right. Okay, let's keep this serious, people. All right.
Mics are up, but we're laughing in the background.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. I can rename this file name, right? So you can go ahead and rename it. I could say driver's license, scanned copy. So it's not just a one-way street. So as you update this information in this cloud storage system as powerful as Google Drive, OneDrive, Dropbox, Box, and all these systems, it automatically reflects here as well. Okay, so once you refresh, there you go, driver's license. You got driver's license uploaded. The name has changed, and in fact, you can click on it right from uLaw. You don't have to go into Google Drive to open it. When you click it, it automatically opens up for you. Okay? So chronologically, you could start to store all of those documents. We just didn't want to reinvent the wheel because that's going to add cost. That's going to add, everything on top of that. So we said let's, play right wherever it made sense to do these third-party integrations. Okay.
Can I jump in for a quick question?
Yes, please.
So when you're when you're loading these files, are you able to create subfolders as well?
Absolutely.
And that'll convert into uLaw from Google Drive or OneDrive as well?
Absolutely, yes.
Awesome.
Yep. They all carry through.
Great.
And you can see here's the subfolder, and if you quickly notice, you'd see the additional fields. You'd see that this is now a folder, whereas we even tell you what these different documents are. It's an image file, it's a Word document, it's a PDF. Okay? It also tells you who within the Google user was able to do it. So if you look at a law firm, so a great example is one of our clients, and they're completely built on the G Suite because they have Gmail, they have Google Drive, they use the phone to have Google Drive right on their phone. So anytime they're taking photocopies of even receipts of their expenses, they put it into the Google Drive folder that automatically reflects into either the matters, if it's for disbursements, or if it's for an overall office expense. We have documents right under accounts as well. So we not only have matter level connections for documents, we also have overall expense level. So if you have a quick gas receipt, you can take photocopy right under Google Drive and it will automatically show up here. All right, so in terms of just walking through this presentation, I've looked at how we could go through these key obligations. So we looked at client intake, file management, and everything that encompasses under that. So now I'm going to move into the financial management. So we'll leave the business management. Okay, I think there's a quick text here.
Hi, Raveen, that's just me. I just typed in some of the things that the students are going to be required to do on their uLaw assignment, and I think some of these things you've already covered. So I just wanted to get this list out there early. We only have the hour demo, right?
Okay. Fair enough. No, I only had a little bit more to do. So let me, in terms of trust transfer. No, thank you. Thanks, Aaron. Yesterday, if you remember, you should have that in our recording, but I'll recap that real quick. We had a retainer, we generated an invoice, and if you remember, we did this action called Trust Invoice Payment Transfer, okay? And that allowed you to move information from your trust account or move that $1,000 from trust to general. And we also, I think we did an electronic fund transfer. So if you go into our compliance section in our accounts, in Ontario, when you do an electronic fund transfer from your trust account into your general account, you're required to fill out what's called as a Form 9A. So if I download that, I can actually download it for the entire month. I believe we did this for November. Let me see if I've got it right. And there you go, right? You have right away the Form 9A available for Mr. Wade Lightinghouse for the $1,000 that was moved from my trust account, TD account number 123, into my Riverside Drive account in 6767, and this is exactly what the Law Society wants. Your digital signature signed and available. I could do it. Would you like me to do it? I'm sorry?
Where they issue a duplicate, where they receive payment on an invoice in cash, and then they have to issue a duplicate cash receipt?
Without a trust?
Yes.
Yeah, sure. Let's do a quick docket for this client. So I'm going to say document drafting, and I'll make this a flat rate $300, okay? And I've got a $300 docket right now, and I've just saved it, and I'm ready to generate the invoice for that same client. So I'm going to go ahead and generate that invoice. The internet has been acting upon me, so I will go ahead and hit complete. And I'll go ahead and invoice. All right, so let's say there's $339. So the client now owes you that $339. And you said that it's going to come in as a cash payment. So they just delivered cash, which is great. So all you do is you click on Action. As I said, the two big buttons in uLaw, Action and Document Generation. Accept Client Payment. And here are the details of that transaction that you're planning to enter, of that acceptance of client payment. So when did you get that payment? How much was the amount? So if I put in 400, so there was a question about how do we restrict people from making mistakes. So if I type in 4,000 as the payment, it's automatically going to make it 339, which is the actual projected balance, right? You can, of course, enter lesser than that because you could get partial payments, right? But it can't be over than that unless it's a retainer that someone's paying. So someone might say, hey, here's $500, accept it in a retainer amount. So then that's different. So let's say I'm paying $339. Typically, if it's a financial transaction that's trackable, that's bank-based, then we have this. If not, to your point, if it's a cash, we just say it's cash. But the importance of cash is this. When someone gives you cash, it's in your hand. It's in the drawer of your business. It's not in the bank yet, okay? So we have this concept called owner's pocket. It's a cash account, or you can park it in your cash or petty cash. But the owner's pocket allows you to take money into your hands, also allows you to track when you spend money on behalf of your business out of your pocket. So you would park it into your owner's pocket, give them a receipt, which is very important, and click the apply button so that now you applied a cash payment that you received from Way, and you've now got it into this temporary account called owner's pocket. You could leave it there. If you've just got the cash and you're just going to hold on to it, put it in your wallet or your purse and spend it, then that's perfect. But if you do take that money and deposit it into your general account, then there's one more step that you have to do in uLaw. So here is the retainer, or rather payment receipt. So it's got your own personalization. It has the date. Okay, it has all the information ready to go. And you can just email this to Mr. Way. Did that help answer your question?
That was perfect. Thank you.
Okay. So as I mentioned, if this is going to be in your hands and you're just spending that $339, that's perfect. But if you want to account for taxes and things of that nature, or if you move that money from the owner's pocket, there's a simple transfer where you move that money, whatever you did in real life. We're just asking you to replicate that. You can now move that amount, payment from Way, and use the description. It's your best friend. It really helps you. And say you moved it from your cash account and your owner's pocket, and you moved it into your general account. If you have done that, this is one last step in the puzzle that you have to do. So really follow the money, and whatever you've done in real life, replicate that as a transaction within the bookkeeping system uLaw. Okay, because then it just follows that. And here it is right away into that general account. All right. Now comes from the last stages. We have another 30 minutes, so I want to spend a little bit of time on the financial aspects of it. Now, as a legal professional, I'm sure they teach you in the school. You've got really great teachers. I'm sure they're taught or will be exposing you rather to these two main concepts, right? One, of course, is accounting in terms of the law societies, bookkeeping guidelines, and all of the legal accounting nature of things. So in uLaw, we have this one button called Compliance. Under Accounts, that's the primary menu option, we have this option called Compliance. This pretty much walks you through all of the documents that you are required to generate pretty much on a monthly basis. The Law Society auditors are very picky about making sure that when time comes to audit, they ask you for a monthly set of documents across all of these different ledgers and journals. But it always starts with, we believe, a proper reconciled account for that month. Because once you have that reconciled, you've agreed that whatever you've entered into your bookkeeping system matches with the bank, or if it doesn't match, then you have an answer for why it doesn't match. Then you've reconciled these two accounts, and then the journals and ledgers are just a click of a button. So for example, one of the first things that you're required to do if you have a trust account is the trust reconciliation. And uLaw provides you with various different tools and techniques to help you really conquer this fear factor of reconciliation. Okay. Of course, I was doing a demo, and you can see all of this is very colorful. It's all in blue, which really means I've already taken the step of matching each of these transactions. Okay. Ideally, what you would do when you see the reconciliation is you would compare each of these transactions. So let me go back to the 30th of October. If let's say I'm doing a reconciliation for all transactions on or before the 31st. So let's say I'm closing the month of October. Here are all the transactions that I have so far entered into the uLaw system. So on the 15th of October, there was a trust transfer of $909. On the same day, there was a deposit. And if you really notice the labels in the uLaw product, it's not debits and credits. It's just a little bit more straightforward in terms of whether the money was deposited into the account or was taken out of the account in terms of withdrawals. Okay? And what you have to do now is, let's say you bank with TD, RBC, or any other bank, you would open up your online bank statement or take a copy of the print statement for the month of October, and you should find these transactions on that side of the house too. So you should see, maybe you don't have this level of description. It would just say $909 on their side of the debits and credits. So here, this is withdrawal. So ideally, it would be D for deposit, C for withdrawal, and for the bank, it's reversed, right? So this would be a credit or debit on their side. You're going to say, okay, that was taken out of my bank account. I agree. That was $5,000 that came in, but you know what? It was not on the 15th. Maybe you represented it in uLaw as the 15th, but maybe it took another day for it to reflect into the bank. So the bank date may be different. So you can now change the bank date and make the 16th. So you're still agreeing that that transaction exists between uLaw and the bank. The only difference is the bank date. Now you cannot change the date that you see here because this is coming from the dockets, the disbursements, invoices, and all the date that you've carried from the matter. So if you want to change this, you have to go to this particular file, PC17290 and change it there. So you continue to do this in the same pattern. And here are all the transactions, okay, for the month of October. Now all you have to say is the balance in your bank as of the 31st of October, okay? And once these two numbers match, so you've not had any bank errors, or if you've had any bank errors, you can mention that too. The minute you put that bank error, you see that these two numbers don't match, right? It could be positive or negative. Maybe they put money in or they took money out. So where they put money in is sometimes there's an interest, and you might actually get an interest into your bank account deposited. And it's very important that if you manage a trust account, that you do not allow for these bank errors to occur. You catch them early, and you report that to the bank and have them remove it. Sometimes what practitioners do, they actually go and deposit the money from the general account into the trust account at the last minute. Rather, if you can catch it early, you'd be more than happy to just call the bank and tell them that's a bank error. You shouldn't have withdrawn the bank fees from my trust account. Make sure you remove it from my general account. And now you're ready to reconcile. You click on the reconciliation document. And this document, and we run webinars on these, there's a certain format that's expected by the Law Society. It allows you to capture all of your outstanding trust balances for every client and why it adds up to that bank balance. What were the transactions that were cleared? Sorry, what's your question?
I was just going to say, Praveen, they know that well. They're working on a bank reconciliation assignment right now, actually.
Woohoo! Awesome. So let's say you've done your reconciliation. Then generating the ledgers and journals is just click of a button. So let's go ahead and click the client's trust ledger. And I will choose the month of October. Here's the reconciliation document. Gives you the closing bank balance. This is some additional information we give that technically the Law Society does not ask for. So this is just being a A+ student, giving you more information. And here's the client's trust listing with the balances. Of course, this is a playground account, so please pardon me for all the junk data that there is in. Okay. And this is
when
the final.
When you say playground account, you mean like a mixed trust account?
It's a playground account, meaning it's not a real client. It's a account that we build for all our clients to go in there and put some whatever data to just play with the system. So they've entered, but it is a trust. It's a mixed pool trust account. Yes.
Okay, playground is your term for just it's a mock. Demo.
It's a mock. Correct. It's a demo account. Sorry.
Right. Thanks.
So if I were to generate the ledger for the month of October, it's going to bring up all of the clients that I've dealt with in that month, and if there are any outstanding balances or if there aren't any. So you can see there's A1, there's Jason Brenner's. And if you look at the template, so let's look at Ben Harvey. You can see this is the exact template of the Law Society's expectation of a trust ledger. So you received $1,130 as a retainer for this matter. So you can see the matter number 2. For this client, Ben Harvey, through a check 655. So the date, the amount, what was it for, and as of the 9th, that was the balance in trust. Because most of my demos happened the same day, you could see that there was a trust transfer done for 1,017 and the remaining 113 for a fax disbursement, leaving the trust ledger at $0. Okay. Whereas in this case, you can see as of the 31st of October, there is a $2,000 balance in trust for our client, Gerald Thompson. So there was $565 of original retainer received, and then through an invoice, 3298, that was moved over. And then later, in the 14th of October, you got $2,000 from Gerald. And that's the same thing that you should see here. Here's Gerald Thompson. As of 14th of October, you see his bank balance, trust listing at $2,000. Okay? Likewise, you have the client's general ledger. You have disbursements journal, and of course, all the fancy documents thereafter. So you have the journals, which is the trust receipt journal, general receipt journal, trust payments journal, and disbursements journal. And if you look at the general document, same template. So let's look at that same Ben Harvey, or let's look at Gerald. Yeah, look at Gerald Thompson. You can clearly see that was $565 worth of legal fee that was actually generated, and $500 was before tax, $65 was the tax itself. There's another disbursement of $200, and through this trust transfer, you had $200, $365, and then the client paid another $200 instead of doing a trust transfer. Okay? And the same thing for the general reconciliation. Now, we do allow you to reconcile. You can have multiple accounts. You can also reconcile your own owner's pocket, if you like, but the Law Society pretty much just expects the general account. Any questions so far?
Could you go through the... Sorry, Sean, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, on that screen right there, the little checkbox with the VE.
That's negative.
Sorry?
That's meant to mean negative.
So you check it to make the dollar amount a negative amount?
Correct.
Okay, yeah, thanks.
It takes that $6 off your total reconciled bank balance.
Praveen, would you mind just showing me again how you ran the client ledgers, just the steps?
Sure. So I went into accounts. Yeah, that's the main menu option. I clicked on compliance. And here's the general ledger. And I click download. And then we want you to tell us the date range for which you're looking to generate this ledger, right? Then you can choose the monthly. It goes to the last month date, or you can change the date range too. So you can say, oh, I actually need it for the current month. I can go ahead and change the date. And if I do this for the month of November, you're going to see our friend Way Lighting House right here. Right?
Right, thanks.
All right, so with another 15 minutes left in the presentation time, so bottom line, just a quick recap. As and when you enter information into your matters, as dockets, disbursements, invoices, trust transfers, what uLaw promises to provide are the automatic ledgering of debits and credits in the appropriate accounts so that they automatically reflect in a formatted manner when you generate the corresponding ledgers journals or when it's ready for reconciliation. Okay? So if you notice, we just entered this $339 for Way Lighting House. So if I go into my accounts and if I go into my general reconciliation, you would not see that in the trust reconciliation because it's not a trust transaction, but you would see it in my general reconciliation. Again, this is just another short key to do the general reconciliation. And you're going to notice right at the bottom, payment from Way for document drafting of $339. Now you do see there are some colors here. So there's green, blue, and then black. So that's uLaw's way of, again, helping you make it better and easier for you to reconcile. You don't have to wait till the end of the month to reconcile. You can pretty much continue to confirm if those transactions exist on a weekly basis and tell yourself that they exist, and that would make it a color blue. And instead of reconciliation, you can just generate a preview. So for example, as of today, if I want to just check off, I compare all these transactions, and the ones in green mean that they've come through a bank import. So uLaw also has a tool that allows you to import your bank statements instead of having to enter the expenses. So let's say as of today, I want to confirm if these transactions exist, and I do. Okay, so I'll go ahead and say, instead of generating a reconciliation report, which is typically what the Law Society wants it on a monthly basis, I can do a little preview. I can say, as of 3rd of November, I've confirmed that these are all the transactions that exist, and I'm confirming to myself that they're available. Okay? So when the next transaction comes along, so let's say I have another disbursement that I've paid for from that general account. And let's say this happens later today after I've done the preview, or maybe happens tomorrow. Let me just add a quick disbursement, and I'll say postage. And you're going to see if it's a unit rate, we automatically convert it into a unit rate. You can set up what your disbursement costs are. You can write this back as an expense or just save it as a disbursement. I'll just say okay. So let's say that was an expense that I did incur. That would now show up in a black line, indicating that that particular transaction has not yet been reconciled by you, or has not yet been confirmed by you. So end of the month, you would see a bunch of blue lines and a couple of black lines, and you just have to confirm the black lines for that last week. That's our idea. And here you see the black line. Okay?
Question?
Yes, please.
So I might just be a little confused here. So if you're reconciling for the month ending October and that black line transaction is in November, it's not
that's
to be
because
reconciled.
of the date. No, it shouldn't be, but I'm just saying, ideally you would start with the date. So that's a great question.
Yeah.
Typically, you would decide what the reconciliation report for that month end is, and you would start with, a logical closure for the month end. So as you can see, that transaction does not show up.
Yeah.
I just had it to November 3rd, and that's why it showed up. So the blue and green lines don't want to confuse you. We can ignore it for now. It's just a faster, easier way. So let's say you have a client, right? A client that has maybe 100 transactions a month. If they're reconciling and catching up at the end of the month, then they have to be dealing with 100 transactions one at a time. Rather, if you have the discipline, we're saying, to catch those transactions at the end of the week, you can do 25 for every week, confirm that those 25 transactions exist, catch any errors if there are any earlier enough, and convert them into blue lines. Instead of reconciliation report, you just generate a preview. So there's 25 for the blue lines to deal with for the first week. Then the second week comes along, there's 50. Third week, you're just catching up 25 every week. And at the end of the month, you can blindfoldedly check off the blue lines for those 75 blue lines and only deal with the 25 for the last week. Does that make sense?
Right, you're sort of clearing your plate throughout the month. So by the time month end comes, there's only a little bit left on your plate as opposed to all of it.
Exactly. I'm going to steal that word. Clear the plate. So yes. So for example, the fax was actually an expense that occurred for 2315, and that shows in green because we have a tool here called Import Bank Statement. So let's say you bank with TD, CIBC, RBC, or credit union banks. We have different templates for many prominent financial institutions, let's put it that way, in Canada. So I'm going to choose a TD, bank statement. So all these institutions allow you to download your monthly bank statements as either PDF or CSV, which is called the comma separated value. And we support the comma separated value. I've got this template October 2020. I open it and I upload it. uLaw scans that Excel sheet. Oh, I probably should have chosen TD. Let me do this one more time. Import bank statement. The template is TD. There you go. And we scan that CSV file because that CSV file we assume would have all the transactions that the bank has confirmed to be part of that statement. So for example, if there's $300, you can say take action and say, oh yeah, this was an office expense. And you can call this whatever you like. You can say LSO fees. If you notice, this is the capturing of the expenses. So you can say the LSO fees. The date is confirmed because it comes from the bank. And you can say this was paid to LSO and just hit submit. Right? So instead of entering office expenses, because uLaw also replaces the need for a QuickBooks or any other business accounting software. We pretty much are an inbuilt business accounting software. If I go into my general, again, if I'm confusing you, please tell me now. You're going to find the two green lines. One was the fax, which I had imported earlier today. And here's that LSO fees. It's money still taken out of your general account. But all we're saying is you don't, even clearing the plate, you don't have to worry about the blue lines. Green, you can be confident that the date in uLaw is going to be the same date as the bank because it actually came from the bank. Does this make sense?
Quick question. So if you've cleared certain transactions, the blue ones throughout the month, and then or throughout the month, and then at the end of the month you download your bank statements in a CSV file, will uLaw, I may have missed this, will uLaw recognize that, oh, there's the fee that's already been closed, there's a closed, oh, there's an open fee? Oh.
That is correct.
Wow.
We do. Yeah. So if you actually have, for example, yeah, that's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool feature we have. So if you, let's say this particular transaction of $169.50 for the postage, or what's a good example here? Okay, let me do this. Import bank statement. I think we have enough time for that. So let's say there's a Starbucks, right? So on the 12th of October, there's a Starbucks for $12.71. Okay, someone has to remember that for me. $12.71 Starbucks on the 12th. Let's say I've entered that transaction. Expense, office expenses, I've entered this manually. I believe this was on the 12th. Starbucks. That was $12.71. If I import, let's say that transaction already existed, and now I'm trying to import a bank statement. I really hope this works. There you go. It tells you that it's already been imported, so you don't have to worry about importing this. Did that make sense?
I feel like a round of applause is due for that.
Yeah, that was impressive.
Awesome.
So the question in practice that it leaves me with is you could forget or not have time to do weekly reconciliations, and then at the end of the month, just download your CSV bank statements, and it'll kind of take care of some of the messiness for you, it sounds like.
Absolutely. But keep in mind, we do that for general and not for trust. We still want to do the trust the manual way because we want to help you avoid, let's put it this way, accounting errors, catch those bank errors early. So with the trust, we would love for you to do the way that I showed you, the blues and greens. But for general accounts, absolutely yes, because there's so much of expenses and disbursements that go in and out. If you don't have the time to put it in on a regular basis, we do have your back. I mean, we still recommend catching transactions as and when they happen, but I mean, if life gets in the way and you can't do it, you can just use that import bank statement feature. All right, so I'm going to leave with a few more things, just 3 more minutes I have. So I've hopefully established that from a compliance standpoint, of course, we allow you to capture your client, the matters, docket invoices, ledgers, journals. Now we've also captured office expenses. The last thing, as a legal practitioner, you're a business owner. So from a CRA standpoint, they're going to want to know your, HST account. So the first thing, because we capture revenue and expenses, we're able to help you generate your HST or your provincial taxes document at a click of a button. So as of today, for the month of October, here's the facts where you paid $2.66. Here's all the HST that you received from clients as part of your legal fees. And we do the math between these two. Okay. I believe it is October 12th, right? We said Starbucks. There it is.
He's looking for
$1.04.
that. Yeah, there it is.
Okay, so now we've captured HST paid as part of your business, HST received as part of your business, and we're telling you that's what you owe the government for the month of October. Or it could be for a quarterly. So again, I went into accounts, document generation, and tax. In other provinces, you could have GST, PST. We have clients in BC and other provinces. They do that. Alrighty. Then comes the CRA components. So if I were to do a balance sheet, I can do a detailed balance sheet as of today. I'll skip that for today because this is a plague run account. But I'll run a revenue report, or let's do a P&L. For the month of October, if I were to do a P&L, again, because we capture revenue as well as hopefully give you the ability to capture expenses, we're now able to tell you, where did you get your revenue from? So for this period of October, you had a total income of $16,000 and you had total expenses of $1,400, leaving you with a profit of $15,000 for this month. Now you know this is truly a demo account. Right?
Really good margins. The criminal drink and drive -7. I don't know if we have time to deal with it, so it's just the way my brain works. It's bothering me that it's sitting there. How would we find out if that's a discrepancy or something along those lines?
That's a good question. I need to check that. I don't have a quick answer for why that is. Maybe it was just expenses paid on behalf of that. It was just disbursements that have not yet been recovered.
Okay.
I'll get that answer off to you for sure today.
No problem. Just curiosity.
I can check it out. So I could say criminal drink and drive. Oh, you provided them a discount for a matter. That's why.
Perfect. Okay, cool.
Is that how you would use
that.
Is that how you would use the discount feature, Praveen? You would discount it, you give them the discount before you start billing, or would you normally write it down after you pre-billed?
We recommend pre-bill so that you can send the pre-bill to the client, but let's say you've generated the invoice and then they want a discount. You can always come into the specific matter and then either add a discount to the overall invoice or to a specific invoice. So if today we generated that invoice for $339, we can add a specific discount. But the fact that you've already paid yourself, it doesn't allow you to do that. So let's say I do raise an invoice for this $141.25. I think we're out of time, but yes, you can apply a discount to a specific invoice or apply an invoice for like the overall matter. So you can say, okay, add discount. It's going to say, all right, what is the discount about? How much is it? And once you apply the discount, then you reprint that invoice.
Great.
All right, so I will stop the recording right here. But yeah, the bottom line, okay, maybe before I wrap up, so yeah, legal accounting, practice management, and all the important documents from a CRA standpoint, including HST filing, your balance sheet, trial balance, revenue expense, P&L, fee book, expense book, even aging. So really wanting to know who owes you what money, which is an important report for every business. All of that is available to you. We also do your report on capital and drawing. If you've invested into the business initially and are drawing money out of the business, we have reports for all of that. Of course.
Great.
All right. All right.